Kia ora everyone, and welcome to another Into the Cloud podcast. Different setting this time. We're inside, we're not in the warehouse. Those who saw me shaking on the last one, thank God we're a little bit warmer today. And talking of warm faces, Vanessa Sorenson.
Kia ora.
It's been a couple of years due to relevant pandemics and world economic issues that we've been kind of face to face in this way. But last time, big moment with John Key was joining us.
Yeah.
Disappointingly, we're not joined by any other former or current prime ministers this time. But welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be
How are
back.
you?
And yeah, that feels like yesterday, but also a lifetime ago in terms of how much has changed since us getting together on that couch, which was phenomenal. I was actually just thinking about that. I think I'd literally been in the MD role for about 2 weeks, and so much has changed.
So what's changed? Let's do the tick list. What's changed? So for you personally, you were 2 weeks at the time, MD, and then on the couch with me and John, and then let's give everyone the update. What's changed for you over the last couple of years?
Yeah, so I think back to that time, and I was so excited and passionate about taking on this incredible leadership role, leading Microsoft New Zealand. It was actually the only job I've ever really wanted in my life, and so you finally get there. And I remember being just so nervous on the couch with John and thinking, wow, this is incredible, especially when you get all the hair and makeup done.
Yep.
And I remember watching it back going, oh, okay, I didn't come across as bad as I thought I did because, you're so immensely nervous. But then fast forward literally, I'd say 4 weeks, and we were locking the country down. And I just honestly had no idea how to lead behind a screen. And I remember just feeling so out of my depth, so not sure how to do this, because I get my energy around people, and I sort of had this whole plan of sort of meeting all customers and partners face to face, and I found it really, really difficult. And then we've also then got the excitement of launching the data centers, and I remember having to do all of that, and I was practicing in the kitchen because we were actually going to be letting all the Microsoft whānau know. And my kids came down and said, that sounds so bad. Like, the feedback were now coming from the people in my home rather than the people around me. And then, what a journey for a couple of years. And then how incredible coming together as ANZ and now as the Chief Partner Officer.
So let's touch on the ANZ piece. So for those Microsoft partners listening, Microsoft New Zealand has run its own subsidiary for, as far as I can remember. I mean, I don't know whether it was ever part of Australia or not.
It was once.
It was once, right. And now a joining of forces for the betterment of both regions, it sounds. So let's talk about that a little bit and the process you've gone through to make that happen.
Yeah, so probably about a year and a half ago, Stephen Worrell and Ahmed Mazeri contacted me and said, what do you think?
And Stephen Worrell was the Australian country manager.
He's the managing director of Australia New Zealand. ANZ is what we call. And it made absolute sense to me. In fact, when I first joined Microsoft, I was like, how can we report up through to APAC and Singapore? And that primarily happened because Australia became a country, a branch within itself, what we call the D8, so a stand-up on itself. And really Microsoft wanted Australia to be completely successful while they were going through that transition. And so the timing was just perfect. Our customers and our partners look and feel the same. The programs, the investments, we're only a 3-hour flight away. So it was just absolute perfect timing. And so we've literally spent the last 12 months integrating.
And the access to scale, from my understanding, is pretty monstrous. And not that, in terms of like an underlying sentiment, there is genuinely a poor cousin scenario from a, not in a Microsoft view, but generally, New Zealand poor cousins to Australia and a lot of things. And I look at it and go, wow, there's so much horsepower in the Australian subsidiary that now the New Zealand subsidiary or the New Zealand footprint of those that are going to retain here can access. Let's talk through the scale. What does ANZ look like from a size perspective for you?
Yeah, so look, we're 2,500 people. And, if you put that in context, in New Zealand, we were 150. So it's phenomenal in terms of the expansion and the opportunity. But it's more, like I said, it's about our partners and our customers look and feel the same way. And, with the data centres launching, a lot of the questions are about bringing data back into country, and it just makes sense that we're connected. And we are not reporting into Australia. We are a combined ANZ, which is why symbolically it's incredible that I get to lead the ANZ, partner channel from New Zealand. We've proven we can work from anywhere. And I have people all over Australia, let alone New Zealand. And so it's no longer about our head office and that's where things need to be. So we are absolutely integrated as Australia and New Zealand. In fact, some of the team joke and go, how come it's not NZA? So,
well, that is true.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah. And I mean, you've, on a personal level, Rachel Bondi was you're the predecessor, right, in terms of the role that captured just Australia.
Yes.
Absolute veteran. I think he'd been 20 odd years in
25.
the game. Yeah, in the game, and has now taken an APAC role from what I understand. So how are you feeling? Like, just talk me through the level of anxiety you're carrying around stepping into those shoes. Not to set you up for a failure on this one, but like,
Thanks, Dave.
You'll have strategies, right, about how you're approaching it.
Yeah, look, Rachel's phenomenal, and she's been so incredibly supportive of me. And you know, I go through these bouts of like, I'm so excited and I'm so nervous, and I'm so excited and I'm so nervous. Massive shoes to fill. I mean, yeah, Rachel, 25 years, actually this month that she's been at Microsoft. And I was like, were you 12 when you joined? But she knows every corner of Microsoft. And I could never, even if I wanted to, understand the background that she does. But what I want to bring is so much more partner and customer facing together. You know, I've come from a sales background my whole life, and I really want our GPS team, our partner team, to really go together with partners, link arms. We go to that customer. We plan big, more long term. You know, I think sometimes Microsoft's all about the program this week, this month, this quarter. I want us to think about the next 2 to 3 years, and especially with data centres coming in New Zealand. Like, what's the art of the possible?
And that is a very good point. As in, we've been a significant Microsoft partner in New Zealand for a long time, and now with the recent PackSite acquisition, now across Asia Pacific.
Yeah.
But we spoke around, you spoke on the phone a few weeks ago around the short, medium and long-term investments, and the fact that the success of Umbrellar and PackSite and Microsoft and all of our partner network is kind of based on investments that we made 18 months, 2 years ago.
Yep.
And the rapid cycle of programs kind of don't help the here and now, they help next year. So what do you see as the key investments that you're looking, not necessarily investments, but the thought process around how do we get the gaze higher for the New Zealand partners, and like what do we expect from your role at Microsoft to go, okay, well, these are the things that we're thinking in the long term, and what do you want our partners to be thinking about long term?
You know, I'd sort of turn it on its head, Dave. What do you need from us? I think, you know, sometimes we show up with all of our programs and we crank the handle, and we can sometimes make it a bit complex. So I really want to simplify, to be honest. And I want to do a lot more listening circles with your partners and yourself around what's going to actually fit your business. What's your uniqueness? What do you need? Because we will continue investing in security and modern work and cloud and all of those things. But what is it that's going to make you the hero? And so that's what I want to understand. And then we create programs that fit. Now, don't get me wrong, because it works. We get them from Corp. We know it works because it's been tested, and we want to roll those things out. But I'm more interested about your longer term goals and us fitting more into that. And so then we look back and monitor with pace. And I mean agile. I mean weekly. Are we doing what we said we'd do, but are we thinking more long term? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of actually going to be a little bit switched the other way.
And I think that I was really excited when you got announced as the Chief Partner Officer. Mainly because we've kind of been on this journey together as, you know, Umbrella, Microsoft. We were only 5 years in the game with Microsoft as a business. And now with PackSite opening up all the new markets for us, ANZ plus APAC, there's significant opportunity for our partners to kind of listen and be part of those listening circles to help drive success. What all that waffle really means is that the conduit for Umbrella and PackSite partners to help us all shape what good looks like for ANZ, I think, is far more palpable than it's ever been. How do you feel that culturally lands with how Microsoft have operated as in New Zealand and Australia over the past 4 or 5 years? I mean, I'm conscious that you've got a real strong vision for what you want to do.
Yep.
What are the main challenges you think you're going to brush up against with kind of rolling out that thinking?
Size and scale. It's a bit like what you said, you know, sometimes New Zealand does feel like the cousin. We punch well above our weight, and we have got to get those stories out there. And in fact, there's just so much to be proud of in this country. And I'm finding that with a lot of my team in Australia going, wow, we just didn't know, because we don't tell the stories. And so I honestly think it's now is the time. The next 10 years, everything is going to be embedded in tech. And so how do we get more immersed in that, in the planning, in the adoption, and in the pace of what's possible? As I say, I can guarantee Microsoft's going to keep investing ahead of the curve, tick. Microsoft's going to bring out the best products and platforms, tick. Microsoft's going to produce the best support and be there when things don't go right. So how do we plan better together? How do we create the pace so our partners are transforming at the pace they need to stay relevant? And that's what I really want to understand more of.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the grey matter's moving at some pace as we kind of unpack all of this stuff. And I'm going to look back at where we've seen my personal experience of driving real good deals.
Yep.
And we spoke about deals on the phone a few weeks ago, right? When it comes down to it, when we're trying to get tech into the hands of the customers, who's transforming the user experience in some way. We're only building the tech because of the experience that someone's having with it and what power it drives. The taxonomy of Microsoft stuff is like vast. AI, IoT, full infrastructure suite, SaaS, massive marketplace of 15,000 ISVs, 20,000 SKUs worth of product. There isn't a partner out there that can do it all on their own. Absolutely.
No.
And I'm really looking forward to how we craft consortiums of partners across the customer who can deliver all perfectly within their swim lane. And we've worked with that motion successfully in New Zealand. I'm really looking forward to how that breaches over ANZ, because there's some amazing partners in Australia that have not got access to New Zealand markets yet. But also, if you look at the talent that we've got coming out of, I mean, the Waikato at the minute is just pumping.
Yes.
With, like, take the Aware Group, for example, like just really paving the way for what camera vision, IoT can deliver, especially with agri-tech, but looking to deliver that across APAC. We want to just move that IP across the Tasman, right? It's going to be 100%. so powerful. But I agree with you. I mean, your sales background from Spark into Microsoft, driving the enterprise team, and now looking at it and boiling that down. How do we create pipeline of real, meaningful, impactful work that's not just a number that we're tracking against partner impact?
Well, I want your partners to think about the industry depth that they want to be. I think we've got to go deeper. And we need to understand that. And I think what I'm also most excited about is the ISV startup area. Like, New Zealand's an incubator. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen here when we roll something out? Like, we've got to take more risks. I look at organisations like Lawview who are absolutely disrupting the in-house lawyers for big globals by what they're producing. Plexure, with any of us that have ever gone to McDonald's and ordered on the screen, that's all from here. And look, Xero, everyone knows about them. Who is the next Xero? So, to me, it's the startup, it's the foundry that we have now created. We weren't easy for startups to come to, and now we've listened and opening that up. So the opportunities are so vast for us to create and build new businesses with your partners. That's what I'm really excited about.
So let's take a look at the recent announcement at Inspire. Now, I'm not going to quiz you on recent announcements because I watched all the Inspire content and there's thousands of different things. But give me your view of, well, firstly, let's look at Inspire. We've all enjoyed going to Vegas, haven't we?
Yes.
Or not enjoyed going to Vegas for the past 3 years. So I'm hoping for all the partners that love a good old trip to Vegas, to be honest, and I think to do I can't think of a term quickly enough, but to do the real work. And what I mean by that is a lot of the relationships are built in the bars, in the casinos, right? Turning up with a little bit of a shady hangover and going, right, okay, cool, what content we listen to? But that's how, from my experience, so much business happens through building those relationships. Are we going to get an Inspire, do you reckon, next year that's in person?
I wished I knew. And I do, I'm with you. I think it's the relationships, and we've all missed that connection, let's be honest, over the last couple of years. I did love the coming together of the content for ANZ. Like, I do think sometimes, other than the great fun and the shady hangover, some of the content was sort of a little bit not able to scale down for some of our markets. So I think we're going to get to that middle ground. And, I remember going to my first Vegas Inspire, and I tried to go to everything and went nowhere. Like, honestly, I remember coming back and my brain was so full, I don't think I'd actually kind of really taken anything on. Where this time, I sort of knew the things that I really wanted to get deep into. So I don't know if it'll ever go back. There's definitely been a movement out there from a lot of partners saying the international connections, that one opportunity to really network hard, meet people face to face, to build long-term relationships is absolutely missing. So we're going to need to do something to create that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and on that point, so you've evidently gone through some of the content. What are your key takeaways from which I imagine Inspire as a partner-led conference is far more meaningful for you now in your current role than it will have ever been.
Yeah.
So talk me through your key things that you've taken away from Inspire and how what that means for you.
Yeah, look, at a high level, just that we are all through partners. And that has been more the mantra this year than I've ever heard it. And not just because I'm now in this role, just seeing now even a lot of the changes with our consulting team of going together with partners. It could be on Microsoft paper, but absolutely a partner is behind it. We didn't have those types of opportunities. The size and scale of the investments and the core fundamental areas with partners, you know, just watching what's going to happen with modern work and security, our platforms on Azure, it's how do we make it easier for you to grow your business? So what I was most rapt about at Inspire is the partner attached, the marketplace. What is your success going to be? So it was less now about, okay, we've got these new features over here and, you know, new SKUs and another. It was actually more about how do you tap into to make money by putting your brains and IP onto our platforms. And so for me, that was the strongest ever this year that I've ever heard.
Just co-sell, the co-sell motion and the app source and the marketplace mantra has been, it's matured over the last 24 months because it was in its nucleus 3 years ago and it was kind of launched. But if anyone ever thought that Microsoft was purely Microsoft technology, that whole mantra went out of the way.
It did.
Like probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think at last count, 15 or so thousand different ISV products available.
I know.
So any technology that you pretty much you can buy from any distributor is available through the marketplace in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
And I think that probably captures every meaningful ISV now. But I think what you're saying is we've got startups starting up.
Yep.
And then we've got a lot of horsepower that Microsoft can bring by driving your software through Microsoft's marketplace. Your adoption can go global pretty quick.
Like this. You know, gone are the days of, look, I've cooked something up. Could you get your US-based account teams to get inspired so they'd go out and sell it? No. I mean, that was never going to happen. And to see marketplace and IP co-sell now really come together. Again, it was clunky to start with. It was hard. But I encourage all of your partners to think about the industry depth of how they're going to be different. How are they going to overlay onto our platforms to expand and start up businesses that they've only ever thought could be possible now can be. Like check out the Foundry, like the one place to go to get all of this information. So for me, it was a lot more of a bedding down that we will only be successful through our partner community. And I know that's always been strong, but it is the seeing of the marketplace. It is the IP co-sell of us going together. That really, for me, is how it's going to amplify for the next 12
So partners for Microsoft mean more than purely MSPs that are reselling licenses, right? I mean, it's so much deeper than that. Individuals who are building software that want to get into the market, partner.
100%.
Distributed partners.
Yep.
I mean, ISVs would be the form one. Then you've got the traditional MSP model. Then you've got more industry specialized areas, professional services business. I mean, we umbrella partners across professional services, distribution, and we build our own software, which we push to you guys. So we're kind of in all three camps. But the reason I'm saying this is not to big up what we do, but I am. It's more that the word partner means a lot of things to a lot of different people. And therefore, when we speak about individuals who are looking to start up a business and want to amplify through Microsoft, there's a lot of programs for a lot of cloud providers about starting to build your software on their platforms.
Yep.
What are Microsoft bringing to the table for individuals who are out there that were deving code, cost a lot of money to build robust software? So talk us through that startup program, the ISV program that Microsoft have got.
Yeah, so that's where the Founders Hub is launched, and it's that single place to go. You know, I when I looked at this a few years ago. I'm like, why are we not capturing this market? We just didn't make it easy. Whether it was Azure credits, whether it was thinking like a startup, all the things that are really hard, how does that all come to one place? And again, it was only a few years ago that we really invested in ISV teams and, watching the change in the way we can help organisations go global is really, to me, the differentiator. But also, we're never going to front up and compete with you. That's seriously important. Mm-hmm. Like, as you're building out something, that everything's got to be built on trust. And that is what the Microsoft Foundation is about. And so, as I say, we're always bringing out more, programs and opportunities, but it's the simplicity now of Founders Hub to actually go to one place to find what you need. And it be that sort of hand-holding, because it's hard. You'd mentioned the Aware Group and just watching their phenomenal growth. And, in some of those areas, it was more piecemeal. Hey, Microsoft and Umbrellar, can you help us with this? And we need this. And it was very short term. And so with things like Founders Hub and the focus we've got on ISVs, we're trying to think a lot more long term, because you can't get that return in that first month or year.
Yeah.
It's actually got to be longer term.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a fascinating space. Generally, from the experience that we've had with ISVs, is that the founder is generally the developer in a sense that they understand the tech, because they're generally ideating from a position of tech.
Yeah.
And there are the individuals who found those businesses are generally either coming up to speed in, okay, I've got an idea and I've built it, how do I monetize it?
Yep.
Or I've got an idea, I don't know anything about the tech, how do I build it?
Yes.
The consideration that we've been coaching a lot of ISVs through is it's not just about building the code. It's about how do you, one, make it sellable in the future. So it needs to be robust and trusted and done to a cloud adoption framework. So it's secure, right? Number one. But then two, how do you make sure that that code base is leverageable through marketplaces down the line so you can get traction? No good building something that you can't sell. And Microsoft are in every business, right? Huge Office 365 adoption, relationships in every business that's generally registered has some form of relationship with Microsoft, and that is the value. It's not all the tech. That's what I'm trying to get across to everyone. It's generally not the tech, and there is a cost of doing it cheap. As you can throw it on a free plan with another cloud provider, but then can you actually sell it 18 months down the line? I think that's really where you're coming to the table, right?
100%.
There's a founding perspective of I'm a founder, but actually your developer may have already built this thing before you've even decided to look at what Microsoft can do for you.
Absolutely.
So get in early, I think, is what we're saying.
Get in early. And really, share with us, and this is what I love about your team, because they really do, share with us, what are the new startups? What are they looking for? How do we leverage our technical strategists early, to really fundamentally make sure that, something, we all know you get what you pay for, right? If something's free, what's the catch? So there's always got to be that, that the pull and push, I suppose. But ultimately, how does that success look? And to me, it is about getting on marketplace. It is about your differentiator. And as I say, think about an industry play, because, look at health, even in New Zealand and Australia and globally, what are some of the propositions that you're going to bring that could really change a market quite quickly? How do we help amplify that?
Yeah. And talking of changing markets, so your market has now expanded from New Zealand to ANZ or NZA. We'll coin that term. You've been a big driver for Indigenous change and representing the New Zealand culture in its entirety across your tenure at both Spark and Microsoft. You're now entering an ANZ cultural model. What's your thinking? Like, where's your head at with? Because I know it's something that's passionate for you, and you want to continue that.
Yeah.
You've now got the whole ANZ cultural demographic to as an opportunity. Talk me through what's going through your mind.
This is so exciting. Look, again, we're only just starting the journey. If I think of even Microsoft New Zealand and the work we've done, and it's just unbelievable, honestly. What started when I first joined Microsoft 4.5 years ago, it felt very tick boxy, to where we are today of absolutely employing Maori and Pacific people, the certifications, te reo, ngā motu with Minecraft, so kids are learning te reo. Like, we haven't even gotten started. But as I started working for Stephen Worrell in Australia a year ago, I put my hand up to be the exec sponsor for the Indigenous group in Australia.
Is that the group that Dan is currently
Dan's
working?
actually the global co-chair.
Wow.
So yeah, he's next level. And but Stephen Worrell is the exec sponsor for the global Indigenous. And I'm on a very fast-track learning journey of what Australia is up against. And what I've committed to is setting up a board. We've got a real lower starting point in terms of Indigenous hiring. So we are signing up partnerships this week, literally, on how to get interns and talent. We're going to be rolling out some incredible programs that we will be going to those Indigenous communities to help them consider the art of the possible. And, there's also massive reconciliation areas that we are working with Australian government and really committed to. Mm-hmm. So we are two different countries based on where our starting points are, where we're at, including government connections. And so for me, this is my passion. I do believe we can change communities one person at a time, but we can only scale through our partners. Mm-hmm. So my role is to try and make this easier. A lot of the things I hear from our partners in Australia is, I would love to bring in more Indigenous talent. I just don't know how. Where do I find them? How do I help them? Even my own learning journey of we had to change our job ads and the way we interview Maori and Pacifica. They look down as a sign of respect, and I always taught you look the person in the eye and you be confident. And it's not that they need more support, they need different support. You can't be what you can't see. And so we've worked a lot in schools, but this is also now such an opportunity through the displacement of COVID, where so many people who were, in roles that tourism and that have been displaced, that we are now taking through programs. And so watch this space. I only just got started, but I'm looking forward to partnering with PAX8 to really grow this.
It's a fascinating topic which we could wax on for hours, and we're not going to. That's a whole podcast in itself. Tech has moved so quickly over the last 3 years. And I know that there was a phrase coined by Satcher in the early days of the pandemic that adoption has gone in. We've done 3 years of adoption in whatever months, right? Which is cool. That's great. That acceleration has a consequence. Mm. And I imagine in terms of an Indigenous Maori view or from a reconciliation perspective, there's already a digital divide across all different cultures and countries. There's a wealth divide, gender pay gap, all of these things. Do you think that tech and its acceleration has shortened that gap, or do you think that it's actually it's amplified the gap because of the pace in which there's now, if there wasn't access before and we've adopted a lot quicker, that gap has actually increased over time?
I think it's showing the gap.
Right.
I think, we've all known about it. I think it's easier to get stats around women in tech and still very underrepresented. Maori and Pacific are 2 to 4%, Aboriginal 0.00045.
Wow.
Honestly, if we don't have access, and I mean in our broader communities, like who are missing out, that's the starting point. And so, again, I'm very connected with our corp team around what we're doing with low-ra networks. Satya, absolutely. 50% of human beings are not connected to the internet in the world.
That is 4 billion odd people.
Yeah, that's got to change, because this is the access way. So the digital divide and inequity is more highlighted now. Yep. So it's to me, it's like power. Everyone should have it. And so, I'm really starting that movement, really trying to partner with our big telcos. A lot of them are doing some phenomenal work. And, lobbying the government, certainly the recent trip to the US with the Prime Minister, and, what are we all doing? It's not a government issue, it's not a commercial issue, it's not a telco issue. It's about all three of us coming together to change this.
There's a lot of accountability that comes with this topic, right? And I agree with you. I think for a lot of corporations for many years, it was similar to the green policy. It was a tick box exercise, right? I am green and I have a D&I policy, and it's not something that I subscribe to, but you can see how it's been subscribed to that way.
Totally.
There'll be a lot of partners listening to this that, well, I know because I've had a lot of conversations with them, that they're also looking to tap into different talent pools because of the talent shortage that exists. And we know that the different pockets of cultures across A and Z have got a lot of talent to give. from everything you've just discussed around the work that Microsoft's doing, where's best to signpost partners to get a sense of how do I create a fully immersive and inclusive approach to doing business for the customers, but also to help the significant labour shortage that New Zealand's got of finding that right talent.
And you're so right. You know, we keep going to the same well, we're going to get the same outcome. And you know, I see it with a lot of partners that all that's happening is someone's robbing off Peter to pay Paul and offering higher wages. So, look, from our perspective, you know, 10K Wahine coming on board. You know, we have got programs that we want to link arms with you. We will help with short, sharp certifications. We can't scale on our own. We have got a full internal team that would love to work with the partners to expand that in the regions. Again, we don't all have to be in Auckland or Wellington or Christchurch. How can your partner community help us scale these certifications? You know, imagine you're somebody that goes, yeah, I wouldn't mind, you know, knowing a bit more about Azure, and in 3 months you could be certified and then potentially going for a role with one of your partners. That's how fast we can change this. But I'd also love your partner community to potentially get on board with something we're just trialling with Department of Corrections, where we're actually certifying first-time offenders who are incarcerated, because we believe everyone should be given a second shot. And there's amazing organisations like Take Two that are doing it as well. We all stuff up, we all do dumb things. And so there's another whole real smart community that actually let's train them up while they're incarcerated.
So let me unpack that program a little bit. So that in terms of Department of Corrections, similar to skills training from whilst you're in incarceration.
Correct.
Is providing Azure certifications
Correct.
to make sure we've got certified individuals being released back into.
Correct.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So so shout out to Daniel Lund.
Yep.
He's been driving this with the Department of Corrections. We've just taken 30 first-time offenders through it, and I believe someone's about to get a full-time role.
Wow.
And you know, we have to think differently. We can't keep going to the same well. So there's also around accessibility needs. You know, I remember reading once, or actually hearing somebody laughing about someone who had gone for a job ad with Microsoft, who had written all the things that they weren't good at. And someone said, hey, that person's on the spectrum. My son's very, very similar. And they brought this gentleman in and interviewed him, and now he runs one of the biggest Xbox gaming divisions for Microsoft. Like, we've just got to consider that all humans are coming from a different space, whether it's accessibility, whether it's culturally from a Maori Pacifica or Aboriginal Torres Strait Islanders, first-time offenders. Like, we've got to think differently about the talent that we're tapping into.
And that diversity does create, if you were to sit around a management table and you've got representation from all different identifications, all different cultures, your outcome of thinking is very different. If you're all prepared to let your guard down and realize that you're not all right all the time, which is a very white thing to think, right? And when we've had this as a barrier to good business for the last, since ever I can remember. We all look the same, we all think the same, we all get the same outcome.
100%. And we've got to provide that psychological safety for people to share their ideas. And, you know, I don't know about you, but I remember doing that Survivor game once, and the one that was the most quiet was the only person that survived. You know, it's like, you know, all the A-types that were all like, you know, knew all the answers, and we didn't actually go and ask the person that was sitting in the corner quietly. And, you know, if that was a real scenario, that was the person that survived. And so, you know, I see it within Microsoft of our interns that have come from TupaToa, of Maori and Pacifica, and what they bring, their voice, the confidence, but it's different confidence. It's not the know-it-all, it's the learn-it-all. Mm-hmm. And it's just fundamentally we get way better outcomes for it.
Which has been a common phrase at Microsoft for many years in terms of Satcher bringing in the learn-it-all mentality. It was part of his refresh book. I think it was kind of the core to that. Satcher has been with the business now for, it must be, it's a long time he's been in the business, but he's been
20-odd years.
CEO and now chair, right, from what I understand,
correct.
For a hell of a long time.
Yeah.
His vision for Microsoft as a whole is really starting to play out now since he took over, right? I mean, I was amazed at the transformation that happened from like these first 2 years, let alone it's now 6 years. I imagine it's probably in that. What are you expecting from him over the course of the next couple of years?
He takes risks. You know, I think of some of the organisations that we've bought, Nuance and you know, even LinkedIn a few years ago. He will continue to take risks, and the empathy and approach that he takes, I'm in awe. Like it's you feel it and know it when leaders are genuine. And I watch him with customers and partners, the way that he leads through, but also really saying to all of us, have the real grown-up conversations with people. You know, don't shy away from those. And, you know, the psychological safety of coming and being your full authentic self, but everybody continuing to step it up. And so I think from his perspective is just the acceleration of tech. The last 10 years, we will never be able to benchmark the next 10 years on that. Like this is a new blueprint for everybody. And so I think what I see Satya bringing is that not only learn it all culture, but take risks, be an empathetic leader, but hold each other to account. Like that doesn't mean that everybody can be average all the time. Like continue learning, stretch yourself. If you're not feeling a little bit fearful and you're feeling really comfortable, do something that makes you not comfortable.
Get comfortable with being a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to be a job change. It's like jump into something that you won't know the answer for, but at least try it. I think as humans, you know, this isn't, I don't know, we get one shot. And so, you know, how are you going to leave the world a better place? And that's what Satya's doing. He's planting seeds that will be growing long after he's gone. And whether it's Indigenous or accessibility or building the best tech platforms that are secure and doing good and not bad, like fronting things around Ukraine, fronting things that he sees that is not right, standing up for the Christchurch call with Brad Smith, because we will not stream terrorist activity. Like, keep doing that. And that's what fills my soul, and that's why I get up every day going, man, I'm lucky to work for this company.
Yeah, that's it. Well, look, I mean, we've got a good relationship over the past 4 or 5 years, and I think with your new role going forward, I think we're going to get a lot more opportunities to work closer together, which is I'm really looking forward to. Thank you for spending time with us this morning. I know you're a very busy lady and you've got a lot to do. So, but thank you for coming to our new studio. We're loving it here. And
thank you to all of your incredible partners. All the work that you do, and congratulations with PAX8. I'm so excited.
Oh yeah, I mean, for those of you who haven't listened to it yet, there is a prior podcast, this one around the acquisition of PAX8 purchasing Umbrellar. So we'll signpost that in the link below. I'm not too sure where we're to go. I'm on one corner above here. But deeply from the bottom of my soul, thank you very much for joining us. And we'll see you around the traps and possibly on another podcast soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. Cool. Thanks for inviting me, and kia ora.
Kia ora.